Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you, Ben.
Very nice to see you. I'm Ben. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Melting Spot. I'll let you introduce yourself, like in 2 seconds, Debbie. I just wanted to remind all our viewers a few things. First, we are live on a couple of different platforms today, both on LinkedIn's Melting Spot. So if you have any questions, just push your questions in the chat wherever you are, and someone will lead the questions to Debbie. So don't worry, ask all your questions in the chat, and they will end up in our hands anyway. We'll take the questions as they come. So just ask your questions whenever you want. Don't wait until the end of this webinar. We're up for a 30 minutes webinar. We're going to try and stick to this schedule. So I'll make sure we are not too late on schedule. At Melting Spot, just a few words on Melting Spot, and a few words of auto promotion, but it's just to remind everybody here that we are at Melting Spot building a customer education platform. And that's why we are going to talk about customer education today with Debbie. We are basically helping SaaS companies solve their onboarding, activation, education problems with a platform. We are helping them building academies and communities right into their product. And the reason for that is because according to Forrester as well, a proper digital customer education program is very efficient to increase revenues by something like 6%, or even increase retention by more than that, approximately 7 to 8%. And another figure that is interesting to illustrate how customer education can be important for us is this one. 86% of SaaS customers wish they could get the right educational resource at the right time, at the right step of the product while adopting a product. So it really means something. It means that customer education is key to our business, especially in the SaaS industry. And that's the reason why I'm very pleased to have you today on this webinar, Debbie, because you are a master of customer education. While we were preparing, or earlier today, I said you are a rock star of customer education. But I think you are one of the most experienced person I've ever met in this industry, in this customer education industry. You've been around for the last couple of years. You tell us how many. But you know a lot about customer education, and I'm very happy to share this with our audience today. So thanks a lot for joining us. And can you tell us a little bit more about you and your background, what you're up to today?
Sure. Thanks. I'm Debbie Smith. I am the Senior Director of Vizier University and also the President of SEDMA, the Customer Education Management Association, which is the only nonprofit organization that exists for customer education professionals. And I've been doing customer education for a lot longer than I realized customer education was even a thing. I was doing customer education about 20 years ago before I even had the words. I only came into the words probably about 9 or 10 years ago after reading Adam Abernasco's book, is actually when it clicked for me. But there was actually a book written 40 years ago too. So the terms have been around. It just wasn't widely adopted. But now that we know the terms and we're using the terms, we're seeing a real change in the way companies are adopting customer education. 20 years ago, people wanted to learn the software, so they were learning how to do it in different ways. We had monolithic training, we had product training that taught every click in every feature and every function. And that's great, but you end up with a book that's about two inches thick. And we all had those books. There was the Dummy series, and there were a whole bunch of books on every software you went and you took. And when you took those, some of the books were really interesting. I always liked the Dummy series best because that series actually sort of started to flip it and talk about why I was doing things. And one of the biggest differences between product training and customer education is really that why, that what's in it and how do I learn from it, why does it matter to me? Right? Because customers don't actually care about our product. They care about solving their problems. And so the real focus and the difference from customer education is focusing on the customer's needs and what the customer is trying to accomplish instead of the product. So that's a huge flip in the way we've changed from the old ed services too, because ed services has been around ever since we've had software. IBM's always had it. There's always been educational services that you could buy that were instructor-led training. But we've shifted more to a digital or a blended mode recently.
Okay. Have we shifted to something also a bit more multimodal? Like, what is the best for, here I'm talking about how to deliver customer education to your customer and what kind of format. Has there been a change here as well in the way we are delivering this customer education?
There has been, because the focus is really on scale today for most companies. So we're looking at scale. We still need the white glove service of instructor-led training. There are certain companies and some people who prefer that instructor-led. But even if we're doing instructor-led today, often we're doing virtual instructor-led so we can teach more people at a time than we could in the past. The using digital customer learning, so using e-learning, it's not actually new. It's been around for now 20 years, but we're getting better at it. And as we get better at it, it's having more of an impact for customers. And the nice thing about e-learning is that it's just in time. They can get it when they need it and when they want it. So that's a huge reason to shift for it. It's also more scalable.
Is it the reason why we are getting better at it? Like, because we know how to deliver it at the right time under the right format? Why are we getting better at e-learning, for example? Why
Uh,
would you say that?
We're getting better at it for a couple of reasons. One, our customers are forcing us to get better at it. So most of us put surveys at the end of our courses, and the customers are always giving us feedback, telling us what they like and what they don't like, right?
Okay, great.
So we're taking that customer feedback and really turning it into the next level of work that we're doing for them. Our computer systems have also gotten faster, so things don't take as long to download. You don't have to download things like we used to. So with the high-speed internet, that has really made it easier for us to deliver quality e-learning. There was a time when streaming video was very, very expensive. I remember those times when we had to actually create different types of streaming services for each video that we were doing, and we had to release 4 different formats. We don't have to do things like that now. So the speed to development is a lot faster because we don't have to do a lot of things that we used to have to do.
Okay, cool. Let's maybe rewind a little bit and get back to this definition of yours about customer education. You made a clear difference between product training and customer education.
Yes.
What's the whole point of customer education? Like, why is it so important? And while we were preparing this talk a couple of weeks ago, you talked to me about upskilling customers, and I'd like to maybe investigate a little bit this upskilling thing you were talking about. What do you mean by upskilling customers?
So great question. So with customer education, we're really focused on the skills the customers need. One of the things that we hear from CEOs around the world is they can't find people that have enough skills to do the jobs they need. Well, if you think about it from an education perspective, it makes sense. Most of us today are working in jobs that did not exist when we were in high school or in college. They just didn't even exist. So there's no way high school and college can prepare you for something that doesn't actually exist. They can't give you that skill. They can give you the skills about problem solving and thinking, but the actual hands-on skills they can't do. And that's where customer education comes in. We can help upskill the workforce. So for me, I'm at Visier, which is a people analytics platform. Well, so I can't just teach people how to create the charts and analyses and use Visier. I need to actually give them the skills to use that. So one of the courses that we teach is storytelling with data. How do you actually even think about telling stories? Why do you have to tell a story and not just give a chart? That's a real skill that we have to enable customers to do so that they can use our software the way they want to use it and the way they're companies want them to use it.
Hmm.
So the focus really has become the skill, which is really around the what's in it for the customer. What is the job they're trying to get done, and really focusing on the jobs to be done.
True. Okay, cool. What are the companies that should be involved in this kind of customer education programs? Like, is it something for everybody, every company, every size, every industry, or are there any specifics?
So it actually is, it's interesting to see that it actually is for everyone, because everyone today has technology that they're trying to get people to use. Whether you're a bank, if you're Bank of America, you're trying to get people to use both your partners and your end users, your B2C people. Everyone is trying to get someone to use some type of technology. So in order to do that, you really have to enable the skills. Most of the work that I do is focused around software training. That's the area that I've been playing in now for quite a few years. I've been at 6 different software companies and run these programs at 6 different companies. I love the software space, so that's really where I focus. And one of the reasons I really fell into the customer education piece was because I can tie what I'm doing directly to the company goals and align to their KPIs, right? Like, I don't actually teach people just so they'll learn or so they have the skills, right? Because what good does it do? What does it matter if they have the skills if they're not using the software, right? So I teach people so they buy more software, so they use more software, and so they don't churn,
Hmm.
right? So it's actually a sales tool. It's a customer success tool for companies.
Hmm.
And so we use learning to accomplish our goals. So there's a combination piece there, but it's really a business goal. So if we're not tying into and understanding what the business goal of the company is, then there is no reason for us to exist. And every company has slightly different goals that they want to focus on at different times. And sometimes you may be focused more on adoption. Sometimes you might be more focused on onboarding. You may be focused on reducing support tickets. You may be focused on driving ARR. And I've had really cool numbers at different companies to show that customer education works no matter which company I've been at. I've always been able to show at least an 11% increase in ARR for customers who had gone through e-learning and a 25% increase ILT. And then certification, my numbers were off the chart. They were like 70% increase in ARR. And if you think about it, it's logical. It's because they knew how to use all of the pieces of the software. And so they would buy more because they would be able to use them more.
They could understand the value of the product, so they could buy it or even buy more of the features. So
Exactly.
to upsell and at least not churn in the short term. Very interesting. Just one question, because you said you worked in 6 different software companies over the last couple of years. You developed 6 different customer education programs. Can you take one of them and maybe detail a little bit what is a customer education program, just to make it very clear for everybody what it means, like in the real life? Is it online courses associated to a series of whatever? What is it?
Sure. The programs that I've set up so far have all pretty much had 3 solid components, and sometimes we've been able to add a 4th or a 5th component. So the 3 components that I really think about are the instructor-led training.
Mhm.
So that can be in the form of on-site, such as at conferences, or it can be virtual. And I've done both private and public. So private are when we train just a specific company, public are when we open it up to multiple companies. So the instructor-led training is one arm of it.
Are we talking here about on demand or live sessions?
That was live sessions. So
Okay.
that's always one component of it.
Mhm. Okay.
The biggest component is always the e-learning.
Mhm.
So that's the on-demand component. And that is always, sometimes it's free, sometimes it's paid. I like a blended model, so I'll do both if I can. And that is where most of our resources and most of our time goes to, quite honestly, is in the e-learning section, because it's the easiest to scale and reach more customers. And that's always our goal, is to reach more customers. And then the third piece that I usually add in is a true certification. And certification, it's an exam that's proctored. It meets certain requirements, and it validates that people actually have learned whatever they've taken, whether it's been in e-learning or in instructor-led training, but it's never tied directly to training. So there's that piece. The other pieces that sometimes we get lucky enough to blend all into the customer education, is sometimes we get to blend the in-product training in.
Okay.
And then the other piece that I'm really excited to start to bring in now is community. I will be taking over community too, and blending community. And that's going to allow me to use community to do some social learning for my customers. So really excited about doing that piece too.
Okay. And how does a certification work for an end user of a like standard B2B SaaS? How can you motivate an end user to be certified?
So people really like to have that certification because they can share it on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And badges are really helpful. So I always use badges with them. I tend to use Credly because Credly's easy to share and I can get people to share
On LinkedIn or other
on LinkedIn. And they also, I've seen badges printed out and put on business cards, believe it or not. We see them posted on websites, especially for partners. So the badging really is a motivator, and that really validates that people have the skills that they have. And with the decrease right now that we're starting to see after coming out of COVID with higher education, these badges and these skills and these certifications give people more credentials, because many of the jobs today are not requiring a bachelor's degree. So how do you know people actually have the skills? That badging and certification really helps you assess that someone has the skills that they need to do a job.
Okay, very, very cool. Is it like, can you draw a kind of hierarchy? You say that, yeah, hierarchy.
Hierarchy.
Yeah, in the pains that can be solved via a customer education program. Like, what comes first? What kind of pain can you solve? Like in 100% of the case, activation, onboarding. Like, what is it efficient for?
So yes, it's efficient for all of those. What's really cool, so every SaaS company has one thing that they're all focused on. At some level, one of your teams is focused on retaining your customers. When I did an analysis this year, looking back at any customers who churned, they had not engaged with training for at least 12 months, usually 18 or more months that they've been involved in training. So it has a huge impact on your churn, which is really important. Product adoption is also, there's different tools that you can use, and I've used different tools in different places, but if you can get into your product to see what people are actually doing in product, you can actually measure when someone takes a class, what do they go and do after that? And I've had some really good results being able to show that people have used 25% more features after taking a specific course. So being able to get in and really look at those metrics is huge. Support tickets is an easy one to measure, because you can classify your support tickets, and based on which courses people are taking, you can actually deflect support tickets. So that's a huge help for your support team, because that can save you money by not having to have as many support reps. And the other thing it can help you save money with on your teams is a lot of your customer success managers, your CSMs, are spending time one-on-one training. If they instead are sending out the e-learning, then their customers can take that. They can have the higher level, the more strategic conversations, so that we're not stuck with all of our CSMs doing training, because that's really not the role of the CSM to do all of that training. But companies that don't have a customer education team, most of their CSMs spend at least 50% of their time training. Now, if you think about that, if you've got 10 CSMs and they're each spending 50% of their time training, that means you have 5 roles right there that are focused on training. If you took those 5 roles and put them onto a customer education team, had them create the e-learning, you could then have the success managers doing more strategic work, and you can grow faster because you don't need to add 10 more CSMs. They can use the e-learning instead. That's
Yeah,
what
you can
you
scale. Yeah, it's a good solution to scale your customer success. So if I summarize, if you were to rank the good reasons why you should implement a customer education program in your company, um, product adoption would come first. Support tickets reduction would come second, and scaling of customer success teams or CS efficiency would come third, if I'm correct.
that's the way I'm seeing it right now. But every time I go to a different company, it's going to change depending on what the company goals are, because you can pivot what you're doing in customer education to achieve those goals. Like right now, my goal at Visier, we are opening up our platform and becoming a real platform company. So our focus is really on training the more builder type people, the developer, citizen developers, people who will be actually building on the platform. So it's a major part of our initiative for our customer education team to be building the content for that.
Okay. Would you say customer education is part of the customer success team, or is it like a specific department in the company? Where would you place customer education in the org chart?
To me, customer education is a business function that should sit beside CS. So I strongly believe that it should report directly into the C-suite, into the chief customer officer, which is where most CS teams are reporting today.
Okay.
However, if the VP of CS is reporting to the CRO, which we do see sometimes, then the customer education team should be reporting into the CRO. And because
Not product.
I would avoid product, quite honestly. I've been on product teams, but when you're on the product team, then they always want to focus on product education. So they want to talk about their features and functions. And let's be real, no one uses our software the way we intended it to be used, right? Customers solve their problems with our software. Our software was built to solve a certain problem. So if you're on a product team, you're too focused on just the product and not the customers, has been my experience. It's harder to get that customer input on product teams.
Very interesting. Do you have any benchmarks, like great companies who have achieved great results with customer education? Or like, could you share one or two benchmarks of yours?
So I've given you a couple of my benchmarks, which are the 11% for e-learning, instructor-led at 25.
Sorry, I'm talking about like one or two company name who've been great at customer education.
So I think Gainsight does a great job. Slack does an amazing job. Asana's training is really good. Their team does an amazing job. Gong has done some really impressive things. And I really like what Braze is doing right now, too. Braze has a really nice, clean site, and really like their training.
Okay, great. We're going to have someone from Braze on this webinar, like in months from now. But I have one question, like what is a great customer education program? Is it great because it's customized, for example? Are you able today to customize an education program and make sure that the customers who's been around on your product for at least 2-3 years is not gonna share the same content and education tips than a customer who just sign up? How do you manage this maturity of the customer on your product?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a challenge because many customer education teams, and in fact, most customer education teams start out with onboarding. So they create the onboarding content, and the most frequent reply I hear from customers is, yeah, we already did that. I need the more advanced stuff. So a good program really runs the spectrum and has the advanced content too. We tend to start with the onboarding, but the programs I just mentioned also have the more advanced content for people.
That's what we call the everboarding.
Yes, it's that. And the use case based training is really what people are looking for. They want to know what cool things other customers are doing with your product.
Mm.
And those tend to be the more advanced pieces. And those are the things that customers get really excited about.
So that's when sharing customer stories, customer experiences, tips are becoming important.
They are. And when you're writing training, instead of writing this product does this, what is the problem that other customers are solving? And when you're looking for those use cases to write your e-learning, actually looking to the cool use cases that are pushing the boundaries with your software, that makes your software more inspiring, and people will really look to use those other features. So looking at the best use cases and writing those into the stories of your training has a huge impact.
Okay, cool. Now talking about the stack, the tools you need to run a customer education, what would you recommend? Like apart from Melting Spot, which is by far the best customer education platform. Just kidding. Now, what are your favorite customer education tools or your must-have you would recommend our audience?
So for development, it depends on how you're developing. You can develop directly in product, or you can use. There is a new AI tool out, which is Learn Experts AI, which I'm starting to use. I like that because I can get a fast, rough draft on it. If you're doing certification, then you're going to need both a certification platform and a proctoring tool. So for certification, I usually use Scorpion, which is by Cavion. I love that product. Uh, some of the other products that I think are really important, and a free one, is Hemingway app. Hemingway app will color, you copy and paste your text into it, and it will highlight your text in different colors to show you where it's difficult to read. It's really, especially as if you are creating content in a language that's not your native language, because we all do iterations of it when we try to speak a second language. It really helps with clarity and conciseness. So that to me is a must-have tool, and my team does use that one all the time.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that. You just talked about AI, and that's, well, we're almost at the end of this webinar, but that's one thing I'd like to discuss with you. What is how much AI, Gen AI, is going to change the way we are educating our customers? Any idea on that, or can you see emerging trends on due to Gen AI?
So I think if you're only doing product training, we're probably not going to have as many of those roles around anymore. Because if you go to ChatGTP and ask it a straight up how do I question, it can tell you the steps that you need to do in software. So if that's all your training is, it's going to really affect your job. But if you're doing customer education with customer use cases, that's where ChatGTP can't go. It doesn't get best practices. It doesn't get the use cases. It can't pull it in real well. I've tried. It doesn't work well. So I think it's going to have an impact that way. But I think it's also going to really make our jobs different. We're going to need to be really better about problem solving and thinking through how we do things, because AI hallucinates, so it's never perfect. So it's going to shift our roles. It's going to make us more effective. We're going to be able to produce training, learning faster than we could in the past. And I think it's really going to be an exciting field. But I think that if you don't adopt AI and start understanding how to use it and how to make yourself a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient, I think that's when you're going to run into problems, because it is going to affect the efficiency of all of us.
Okay, thanks. I agree with that. It's time to wrap up this chat, Debbie, already. 30 minutes already. Well, it's already there.
Yep.
How to say it otherwise. But would you share maybe just one advice with our audience? Because most of them are probably new to customer education. They are wondering if they should or not launch such a program. What would be your one advice to those hesitating people?
just get started. Just do it. Start creating some videos, start creating some e-learning courses. You can host them on almost anything, but having a platform like Melting Spot will really help you. And it's really important to just get started. Failing fast is a mentality that you have to have on a customer education team, right? So nothing you do is going to last forever. The scariest words I've ever heard in my life were a UI hackathon. What does a UI hackathon mean? It means they're going to change the entire UI in 30 days. Yep, been there, done that, had that happen. That's not fun. No matter what you create, it has a shelf life because our products change constantly. And the younger your company is, the faster the product is going to change. You're going to have more UI transitions. So get started and just start putting stuff out there. Start and measure what you're doing, but just do it because it will impact your customers. Customers are asking for it. And really just focus on what the problem the customer is trying to solve. And if you can focus on that and create videos and e-learning tutorials for them, it's going to go a long way.
Okay, cool. Any news you would like also to share as you are running the Customer Education Manager Association? Is there one news
So
to share?
our conference is next week. There are still tickets available. You can go to sedma.org and you can join us next week in Atlanta. If you're not a member of Sedma, consider joining Sedma now. We have meetups and user groups. We've got a Slack channel that you can ask questions. There's a lot of leaders who are even more experienced and who have a lot more knowledge than I do, who are around and will help you answer questions. It's a really open and friendly community, so hope you'll join us.
So you don't need to be a customer education manager to apply, or?
No. If you are working in customer education and trying to start a customer education program, you are more than welcome to join us. We really exist to help upskill anyone who wants to do customer education, whether it's an individual contributor, a manager, a VP, a C-suite. We're really there as a community to help us all grow and learn from other mistakes. Some of us have been through some real head-pounding examples, and we're trying to help you avoid the mistakes that we've made.
Okay, great. That's very useful. Thanks, Debbie. It's time to end this webinar. Just a few words about our next to come webinars, because as you know, we are on a mission to keep educating on digital customer success, digital customer education. And we'll have great speakers in the next couple of weeks. I think we have Nisha from Gong coming up next week. We'll have Braze also in a couple of weeks, and a lot of other people. So just stay tuned, and we'll let you know about those speakers on our LinkedIn page or our Melting Spot CS Nation community. Okay, thanks, Debbie. It was really interesting. I have plenty other questions, so you'll have to come back on this webinar sometime soon. But that was very interesting, and I learned a lot as well. So thank you very much. Have a great day in Boston. And,
thank you for having me, Ben. I enjoyed it and happy to come back whenever you want.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.